This is R2D Tech and we're back again with another video today about the new 13-inch MacBook Pro. So there are good and kind of disappointing things about this new MacBook Pro. The good things are that Apple have finally addressed the most annoying features of their last generations of MacBook Pros. However, there are a few more things that I would have liked to have seen in this new generation, which we didn't get this year. So firstly, let's talk about the most obvious and probably best change Apple has made. That's with the new Magic Keyboard that we saw on the 16-inch MacBook Pro. They finally added it to the 13-inch. The new keyboard is using scissor switches instead of the butterfly switches which Apple were using before, and it's just a much better experience to type on. It feels so much better and it's definitely going to be more reliable. That's mainly because you're getting that extra bit of travel, which means if dust gets underneath, it probably won't cause much of a problem. Apple have also included a dedicated escape key and also the inverted T arrow keys, which many people were requesting, so that's also a good thing. However, unfortunately for some people, the touch bar is still there, and many people were complaining because it kind of glitches out a lot. So that's kind of a bad thing if you're one of the people who didn't really like that. I personally didn't mind it that much, but I could see how it could be quite annoying. Now, apart from the keyboard, Apple hasn't really changed the design at all. It's exactly the same aluminium chassis and it's still as well built as ever. One of the disappointing things for me is Apple still decided to go with the same screen size, 13 inches, instead of going 1 inch up like they did on the 16-inch MacBook Pro. So the bezels are still exactly the same size and they just kind of look a little bit outdated in 2020. However, that screen is as good looking as ever. It's 1680 by 1050 pixels and it can reach 500 nits. It's probably one of the best looking screens on any laptop out there, so that shouldn't be disappointing at all. You can still get it in the standard colors, either space gray or silver, so that hasn't changed in that regard. The second biggest change Apple has made, in my opinion, is with the specs. So you can now equip it with Intel's 10th generation Intel processors. The base model is also now a quad-core processor, which is really nice to see. I was not a fan that Apple included the dual-core processor with its base model in previous years. For RAM, you can either get 8 or 16 gigs of memory, and that's pretty standard on pretty much all Ultrabooks these days. And for storage, you can either go for 256 gigs, 512 gigs, or 1 terabyte. You're not getting a dedicated graphics card in this laptop, you're getting Intel's integrated Iris Plus graphics, which should handle light video editing and possibly some gaming, which is kind of unlikely on a Mac if you're into that. I kind of would have liked to have seen maybe a lower end dedicated graphics card in this laptop, which would have enabled kind of higher end video editing, but we didn't get that. For the battery, you're getting a 58.2 watt hour battery, which is pretty much standard on many 13-inch Ultrabooks, and they claim that will get you 10 hours of battery life. Apple laptops generally have a very good record when it comes to battery life, so there should be no disappointment there. You also get the 61 watt power adapter in the box, which is really good to see, unlike with the MacBook Air where you don't get the fast charger in the box. As we've seen in the last few years, on the base model you get 2 USB-C ports and a headphone jack, whereas on the higher end model you're getting 4 USB-C ports and a headphone jack. In 2020, it's unlikely that Apple will be reverting back to giving us more ports, so I'm not really sure whether to be disappointed or kind of just fine with it. The trackpad hasn't really changed from last year. You're still getting that absolutely massive trackpad for a 13-inch laptop, and it's pretty much the best on any laptop you can get. It's just incredible, really. For audio, Apple has stepped up their game this year, and the speakers sound pretty amazing. They're not quite as good as the ones on the 16-inch MacBook Pro. However, they are still probably the best you can get on any 13-inch laptop again. Obviously, this laptop will come equipped with macOS Catalina, and if you're getting a Mac, you probably know that already. And you probably know that that's what your preference is in terms of operating systems. It's probably good to say that obviously there will be lots of Windows alternatives out there that will offer you better value for money. But if you're watching this, then you're probably interested in a Mac. So let's talk about the price. And this is an area where I think Apple has improved just a little bit. So for the base model, which is £1,299, you're getting a quad-core i5 processor, 8 gigs of RAM and 256 gigs of storage. Now, while that's definitely not the cheapest you can get, we've kind of seen a trend of Apple slowly starting to kind of revert towards the other manufacturers' prices. We've seen other manufacturers definitely increasing their prices of their laptops. For example, with the Dell XPS 13. Now for the top spec model, you're going to go all the way up to £1,999, so basically £2,000. And for that, you're getting a quad-core i7 processor, 16 gigs of RAM and 1 terabyte of storage. So the price difference between the base model and the top spec model, for what you're getting, I think is quite large. However, that's kind of what you expect when you're getting an Apple laptop. Obviously, these laptops are still incredibly expensive. You're definitely paying a premium for the build quality and the rest of the features you get from Apple. So I guess just trying to evaluate whether that would be worth it for you. So overall, I think this laptop has definitely improved from last year quite a lot in a number of areas. However, it would be nice to see Apple just give us a bit more, for example, shrinking the bezels or just adding a few more features. We definitely know they can do more, and hopefully we'll see that in the next generation. That's it from this video. If you liked it, please press the thumbs up button. If you loved it, please consider subscribing. Thanks.